True crime refers to real-life criminal cases, often involving murder, fraud, or other serious offences, that captivate public attention due to their shocking or mysterious nature. These stories often delve into the psychology of criminals, the investigations that follow, and the impact on victims and society. The genre invites both fascination and horror as it uncovers the darker side of human behaviour. In today's video, we'll explore the infamous Zodiac Killer case, one of the most puzzling unsolved mysteries of all time. On the night of December 20th, 1968, around 10:15 p.m., 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen parked their car at a quiet gravel turnout on Lake Herman Road. A popular lover's lane in the rural outskirts of Benicia, California, it was a place where couples often went to escape the world for a while. But for David and Betty Lou, it would be their final destination. Less than an hour later, their lifeless bodies were discovered, both shot dead in cold blood. The reign of terror that followed was only just beginning. This marked the first known murder of the Zodiac Killer, a name that would strike fear into the hearts of millions in Northern California over the following year. Between December 1968 and October 1969, the Zodiac would claim multiple victims, his crimes accompanied by a series of cryptic letters sent to the press, taunting the police and the public. Despite his boldness, the Zodiac Killer's identity remained a mystery, one that haunts investigators to this day. Nearly 7 months after the murders in Benicia, the Zodiac struck again. On July 4th, 1969, Michael Mageau and Darlene Ferrin were parked in a secluded area in Vallejo, California, around midnight. A man approached their car, pulled out a gun, and shot them both. Then he called the police from a payphone and reported the double homicide, chillingly mentioning that he had killed the kids last year, in reference to the Benicia murders. Miraculously, Mageau survived the attack, though he was unable to provide a clear description of the killer. But the Zodiac, with his chilling confidence, was not done. On July 31st, 1969, he sent letters to 3 local newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. In each letter, he confessed to the murders of Michael and Darlene and included a third of a cipher. When pieced together, the cipher revealed a horrifying truth. The Zodiac reveled in the act of killing, describing it as a thrilling experience. A few months later, on September 27th, 1969, the Zodiac claimed his third victims. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were relaxing by the shore of Lake Berryessa, near Napa, California, when a man approached them wearing a hood resembling an executioner's mask. He claimed to be an escaped convict in need of money and a car to flee to Mexico. He tied the couple up and, without warning, began stabbing them. After the brutal attack, he used a marker to scrawl a symbol on Hartnell's car before fleeing the scene. Once again, the Zodiac called the police, taking credit for the murder and even boasting about the details of the attack. Miraculously, Hartnell survived the stabbing, but his companion did not. This time, however, the killer had left behind more than just blood. His taunts would continue, further amplifying his sinister presence. On October 11th, 1969, in the Presidio Heights neighborhood of San Francisco, the Zodiac claimed his fourth victim, a cab driver named Paul Stein. The Zodiac shot Stein in cold blood, and afterward, he took a piece of the victim's bloody shirt as a morbid trophy. The police were immediately alerted to the crime, but once again they failed to apprehend the killer. The Zodiac, always one step ahead, sent pieces of Stein's shirt to the press in the following days, further mocking the police and hinting at his continued reign of terror. The Zodiac Killer wasn't just a murderer, he was an artist of fear, meticulously crafting letters filled with cryptic codes and chilling messages. With every taunting letter sent to the press, he drew the public into his twisted game, adding layers of mystery and fascination. He offered up puzzles, challenging the police and the public to decode his riddles, and claimed that more murders were on the horizon. But despite his brazen confessions, the authorities remained unable to track him down. The Zodiac's letters became a public obsession, each one more bizarre and threatening than the last. But after 1974, the killer seemed to vanish from the public eye. Though some believe he may have continued to kill in silence, the police were no longer receiving his taunting letters, and the murder spree seemed to abruptly come to an end. Over the years, investigators interviewed thousands of people, chasing leads and following countless tips. Yet despite all their efforts, they couldn't crack the case. Some speculated that the Zodiac had simply moved away, while others believed he might have died or been arrested for a different crime. But the Zodiac's disappearance only deepened the mystery, making his identity even more elusive. The reasons the Zodiac Killer was never caught are many, starting with the scattered nature of his crimes. The murders spanned a wide area across several counties: Benicia, Vallejo, Napa, and San Francisco. Each jurisdiction handled its case separately, leading to a lack of communication and cooperation between law enforcement agencies. This fractured investigation hindered progress and allowed the Zodiac to slip through their fingers. The police also made critical errors. For instance, when Stein was murdered, witnesses reported seeing a white male, but an initial police broadcast misidentified the suspect as a black male. This misstep caused two officers to overlook a man who had crossed their path on the night of the murder, a man who could very well have been the Zodiac himself. When the killer taunted the police in a letter afterward, he mocked them for their failure to capture him when they had the chance. Another reason the Zodiac remained free was the lack of modern technology at the time. In the 1960s, there were no cell phones, no computers, and no DNA testing. Crime scene investigations were still in their infancy, and evidence collection was often sloppy, making it harder to preserve important clues. Over the years, evidence was mishandled, stolen, or destroyed, further complicating the investigation. Even attempts to collect DNA from items the Zodiac may have touched, like stamps from his letters, have yielded no results due to the degradation of the evidence over time. Even more frustrating was the Zodiac's changing methods of murder. He was a killer who didn't stick to a consistent pattern. He shot some victims, stabbed others, and seemed to target both couples and individuals. This inconsistency made it difficult for investigators to establish a clear profile or connect the murders. Unlike other serial killers who refined their methods over time, the Zodiac's unpredictability kept authorities guessing. Some even theorized that the Zodiac may not have acted alone. There are hints in his letters and the nature of his attacks that suggest multiple people might have been involved in the killings. Others point to the possibility that the Zodiac's identity was never meant to be discovered, that his ultimate goal was simply to generate fear and attention, which he did with chilling success. In the end, the Zodiac Killer's greatest weapon may have been his luck. Time and time again, he narrowly escaped capture. Whether it was poor lighting, mistaken identities, or just being in the right place at the right time, the Zodiac always managed to evade the police. And even when he was close to being caught, fate seemed to conspire against the investigators. The most unsettling aspect of the Zodiac Killer's story is the fact that he simply stopped killing. Serial killers rarely quit on their own. Some believe he died, others think he was imprisoned for a different crime, but his sudden disappearance from the scene remains a chilling mystery. 40 years after the murders, the Zodiac Killer remains one of America's most infamous unsolved cases. His cryptic letters, his taunts, and his ability to remain hidden in plain sight have made him a legend, a figure as elusive and terrifying as Jack the Ripper. Even today, the case is being revisited, with fresh eyes and new technology, but the identity of the Zodiac Killer may always remain one of the darkest secrets in American history. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more from Horrendous Horror.